Okay, we're live. Welcome everybody. Thanks for taking the time to join. I know it's really difficult to coordinate across time zones, so whether it's early, late, or a decent hour for you, we appreciate you being here. We'll start with introductions. Rui Tao is going to give a quick update on kind of all the numbers and the dashboard of everything going on in Karura right now. And then I'll go through the agenda and we'll get through about 14 slides. It's not too long, and then we'll have plenty of time for everybody to ask questions. So I guess I can start. So Dan Reeser, VP of Growth at Karura and Akala, working on a lot of our kind of marketing and community initiatives. Rui Tao, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hi everyone, this is Rui Tao. I'm one of the co-founder of the Akala network. I'm very excited to share some stats and share the plan for open more liquidity mining opportunity on the Karura network today.
Oh, hi everyone. This is Betty, also calling in from Auckland, New Zealand. Early morning for us, and it's very chaotic morning, which you will know why very soon.
Okay, probably I'll get started and share about some progress in the past week or in the past week after our community call. So let me actually try to share my screen. I'm going to go through this really quick and just give a high-level updates on how we are doing with the current Karura network. And before I dig into the numbers, thanks everyone to make this a possibility. This is a 0 to 1 start on the Kusama DeFi. Enabling the DeFi to be happen on Kusama. So we enable the DEX. I think the DEX have been trading for around 10 days, and this is the last 7 days data. A number of takeaway on this chart is that you can see our transactions accounts all growing healthy. The pool of KAR, KSM, this is currently the only pair that we have, is also increasing in liquidity, in value locked. And this pool, while I'm saying spoiling, is also being fueled by all the passionate community members like you guys. We have around 35K Kusama that's currently deposited in the Karura network, and these Kusama are actually losing staking rewards. So thanks for all the brave early explorer here to get into making the DeFi on Kusama a possibility. Soon, I think all this will be. There should be a lot more activity happen once the liquidity incentive is up, and once the liquid KSM protocol is up, there's no longer opportunity cost to move and to play DeFi on Kusama. But nevertheless, to say, even without incentive, without any sort of promotion, and this is purely organic, the DEX do around 12 million volume so far with only one boring pair. And that's why exactly today we plan to open up the next chapter of the protocol, which is the stablecoin, and able to hopefully we can bring this number to another scale. But if we compare ourselves to what currently the DEX on Ethereum, well, it's not appropriate to compare because we are still very early, and also Kusama is a canary network. But that will still put us in a reasonably good position. So thanks everyone to make this a reality, and this is just only the beginning. I think we can make the whole Kusama ecosystem a lot more vibrant with all the primitive that we built. So yeah, thanks everyone. This is the number that I'm happy to share and report for the past 7 days. Back to you, Dan.
Yep. Okay, I'm gonna get my screen shared. Cool. So the rest of the agenda looks like this. I'm going to give a quick update on where we are in the highest level of the launch roadmap for Akala for Karura, and then a little bit of a mention around what's coming next for Akala as well, if you're interested. We're going to go through the current governance proposals that are kind of on the table right now. Some have been voted on, some are still kind of in the voting process. So Betty will go through that as well as the stablecoin launch updates, and then Rui Tao will wrap it up with the liquidity program details, and then how to get started liquidity mining. So here's what the current situation looks like. And everything on the slide, we're doing our best to have kind of accurate placement here in terms of timing and sequence, but there's a lot of dependencies. Many of you probably remember the wait on the Karura crowd loan, and we were always waiting on Kusama. Same thing goes with the Akala crowd loan. We're waiting. All the parachain teams are waiting right now on Polkadot to finish getting everything ready. The Polkadot audit's still going on, so this could shift. But in general, here's where we are. The Karura crowd loan, obviously, we finished that. Karura Swap, the DEX, launched about a couple weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And here we are now with the Karura Liquidity mining program beginning, which Betty's about to go through. Liquid KSM staking, the light version, will be going live probably next. ETH and BTC bridges are in the pipeline, as well as kind of a full trustless LKSM launch. And then, of course, we've got the Akala kind of events happening somewhat in parallel to all this. So another Build Akala event that we'll be keeping people updated on. And then, of course, the crowd loan and Akala liquidity program starting once everything's live over there. With that, I'll pass it back over to you, Betty, and you can get into Karura Dollar.
Well, thanks, Dan. Let me share my screen first. Right. Yeah, so before I get into all the details, there's a number of things happened last night and also this morning. So it is very chaotic and very interesting for me to walk through all of those with you. And also you understand what are the current state of governance, and also why is it important to actually participate or even just take an interest, or how to actually help the network grow, right? So let me walk through the proposals first. So there are 3 proposals that's been laid out last night. Basically, well, someone asked where Brian is. So Brian is like behind the scene, testing all of the stuff and preparing all of the details, and then making sure everything is like at the right place. So the first proposal was to turn on the KUSD stablecoin, where you can actually mint KUSD. I'll actually walk through, why you would want to do it instead of just, maybe go to the exchange and swap the KUSD instead of minting it. There's a number of reasons, like various different people might want to do that for, leveraging or some other purposes, which I will go through that in a short period of time. But let's focus on the proposal first. So this proposal is, we actually established KSM as a collateral, and there's a whole bunch of collateral ratios that we laid out. Basically follow the recommendation given by Ganglet, who is the risk assessment team, helped MakerDAO, helped Compound, and various other teams to come up with their risk parameters. Especially the initial ones is very important because, as everyone aware, for the KUSD backed by KSM, you are basically relying on the KSM holding its value so that you can actually mint KUSD. If this is a bit foreign to you, I'll actually walk through a little bit of mechanism later, and then also there's various resources that you can figure out exactly how things work. So volatility of KSM has a very large say on how stable of KUSD is. So there's a lot of risk involved being the first to launch a product like this. So I think technically it is very novel because no one has ever launched anything like this on a parachain, and then also on a a network of this sort. And then the second thing is no one has ever used KSM as a collateral in a trustless way, cross from Kusama, and also the way that Kusama behaves is also very novel in this market. So based on those factors, it is quite a first of its kind launch. So when Ganglet did their assessment and also a lot of simulation of the data, they come up with all these figures. So let me just walk through those with you. So when required collateral ratio means when you create or mint 100 KUSD, you actually need to put down 275 equivalent value of KSM to back it, right? So this is mostly for safety reasons. If the price fluctuates too much, you won't lose your KSM. You can still, pay it back or add more collateral. But it's more for safety reasons, so that if the price, fluctuate too much, you don't go straight into liquidation, like what happened on the Black Thursday last year. So this is like a safety mechanism for it. And then the second parameter there is liquidation ratio. So if the KSM value, drops below that, so if your collateral ratio is below 225%, then you go into liquidation, right? And then there's also liquidation penalty. If you do go into liquidation ratio, this is the incentive for folks who participate, in the process, and also a disincentive for folks who actually let their vote into such unsafe situation, right? And then the fourth one is stability fee. So this basically is a gauge that the protocol has to manage supply and demand, right? A little bit like your interest rate. If there is too much supply, then you probably lower the rate so that more people can go in and mint KUSD. Otherwise, you increase it. This is one of the mechanisms that we can keep the KUSD packed, for a good ratio. And then the last one is more to do with how many KUSD we want to mint at the maximum level initially. So you can see all of these numbers are very, 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 very conservative. So these are at the far extreme of all of this stuff. And then we also received a second lot of less conservative, what Gang called moderately aggressive risk parameters. So you can see all the numbers are lowered, like you only require 200% collateral ratio. Liquidation ratio is also lower. So we could start with this, but obviously with the market condition and uncertainty of what's going to happen, it's going to be taking a lot of risk on behalf of everybody else, right? So that's why in the proposal, at least right now we thought. We recommend that we start with a very conservative ratio, and then very soon after, if we launch this, and then the launch is smooth, and then the number of KUSD has been minted, this could be like a day, 2 days, 3 days, or a week. If everyone is feel that it's in a good smooth state, we can quickly propose the second proposal, which basically just update the parameters to this, more risky but more favorable in terms of capital efficiency ratios, and then continue to kick off the KUSD stablecoin proposal. So those are the.
Betty, can I stop you there for a second? There's a question about the 50% difference between the required collateral ratio and the liquidation ratio. Could you explain a little bit more about that, like what the difference is between that 50%?
Yeah, sure. So so this is a new thing that we put in as a 2-level of safety valve. So usually a mechanism like this, to use some asset as collateral, you usually only have one level as liquidation ratio, and that's it, right? So, but imagine if you minting some KUSD, you basically just 100 KUSD, and you put $226 worth of KSM in it. Sure, you are above the liquidation ratio, but if there's a $1 change of the KSM price, you immediately go into liquidation. And that is something, it happened to other people, and then we saw that impact, and then we put in a second line there. So when you create the KUSD, mint the KUSD stablecoin, there's a higher requirement there for the collateral ratio, so you don't go immediately under if something happened immediately after you mint KUSD. So it's just like a extra safety mechanism there. So does that help?
Yeah. So basically, if people want to be even safer, say they want like 100% clearance, they would put in 325% collateral.
Yeah. So some people would do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also someone means that in the chat talking about these are pretty tight restriction, or this is a very conservative parameters. I think we're gonna share that this is a conservative parameter. Even the second proposal is also conservative parameters. So again, we are launching this from a brand new network. It's a brand new parachain. So we want to start with some conservative number first. Start to build up liquidity. Start to build up, for example, the pool of the KSM KUSD pair, and then constantly review to see if we can leave or we can go into a less conservative parameters. I think it's always good to start with safety first, and then gradually monitor the situation and to leave any get into any more aggressive parameter as long as we can do it safely.
Yeah, we have the apparatus to do that on chain, right? So all of this, if at some point we feel it's safe enough and also good enough, we can just make a new proposal, and all of this stuff can be updated on chain. And this is also a very good reason why we have liquidity incentive programs, right? Just for this particular reason, we are willing to compensate. So, for folks who come in at this stage, so that, the ratio actually makes sense commercially, but at the same time, we can collectively keep the network and the protocol safe, right? If everything collapses, then with low liquidation ratio, it's not going to help anyone. So that's mostly the thinking behind the scene. But hopefully, if you guys, spend some time to actually go through some of this assessment document, and also there's some readings there. Hopefully you can, get a sense of that. So I won't go into details right now because we have some time later to actually go through the stablecoin, etc. But I just want to walk you through the process of the proposal. And then in the proposal, there's, usually there's also a session actually explain what the actual proposal is. So, this is a part that, we continue to kind of like help people to understand what's happening. Maybe today, and still we are creating a lot of these proposals, but, I think once we launch all of the stuff and people get familiar, the next collateral or the next ratio, someone could raise it also, right? But at the same time, when you raise something, you also need to go through this sort of thinking, so that not just think about how much money you make, but also think about collectively, am I going to destroy the protocol, or am I going to have a negative impact on the network, because we are all collectively sort of storing this network and the protocol together, right? So kind of like, you have some power, but also at the same time, a lot of responsibility as well. So that's the process. So I won't go into those. And then the second thing I want to walk through is after we've got KUSD, the exciting thing will happen, and that is listing KSM and KUSD. So that was the second proposal that was put on last night. And this, for most people, will be quite familiar because we've gone through the practice of listing KSM and KR previously through Bootstrap. If you're not familiar with Bootstrap, maybe someone can share the link and you can read about it. Basically, this is a period of time where people can just add liquidity one side or both sides. You can just add KSM or KUSD or both if you want, and then allow it to kind of consolidate to a price, and also allow the pool has some liquidity before it opens up, right? So those are the main sort of reason to have a Bootstrap. We set the the duration pretty short this time, mostly because KSM is nothing new. So there's not much to consolidate, doesn't need discovery. And also at the same time, there's also already some liquidity on the Karura chain for KSM as well. So we relatively feel that, folks can, get the pool in the right state before we start trading. And also once the trading starts, there will also be incentive program, follow that, which is the next proposal. So that is the pool. And that's that. And then the third proposal, I wonder if this is where everyone is interested in only, is the incentive program. So there's a number of things at play. So they all start at relatively different time as we proposed, but I'll tell you, some of this may not be relevant anymore. But this will happen, sometime after the trading starts, and then there are sort of 2 or 3 sets of the program that we provided, which will have slides to show more clearly. But at a high level, we have incentives for KR and KSM pool, and we also prepared retrospective airdrops. But the retro airdrop is not like mandated on chain because they go through different mechanisms. So this is more airdrop to say, thank you guys for being, early sort of adopters, embrace a lot of chaos, and also foregone a lot of other opportunities that you could have used your KSM for. So just as a way to say thank you, there is a plan to retrospectively airdrop. But at the same time, going forward from the incentive program starts, there will also be KR and KSM incentives to help us to grow the community and also kind of maintain the liquidity in the pool. So that's that. I'll go into details a bit later. And then the second big category of the incentive is KSM and KUSD pool. So there's also actually quite juicy rewards. Actually, this is per month, right? This is not total, per month. And the program is likely to run 6 months. And then so as a liquidity provider, then you actually get triple dip, right? This is very interesting and also cool for the KUSD pool LPs, because you not only will get all these incentives, which is added by us to help grow the liquidity, but also built into the protocol, you also get trading fees as usual. And the third thing is you also has this extra APY provided by KUSD stablecoin, because if the KUSD continue to be minted and then be added to the pool, and then the pool can also provide liquidity when liquidation happens, which in a way also helps stability. So there's a little bit of share, kind of like amounts or the protocols and how they work sort of kind of collaboratively. So so this is a long proposal, so you can actually go into detail and understand all of those numbers. I try to put exact numbers as well, so you can actually learn the process.
And one more thing, if you have
yes.
questions on this, I think Ru Tao is going to be covering this in his slides later with kind of exact like charts and everything like that. So we'll go into more details soon.
Yes. So that is the 3 proposals out there. And then it started last night. And then obviously, we kind of fast track everything, and hopefully, so today we can actually start doing something today. And then now this is a point when I announce a chaos that happened. So this morning, there is the first vote, right? The first vote of the enabling stablecoin, the proposal. So all of this is a presumption of if all of this proposal passes, we could have stablecoin and then we could have liquidity mining, right? The chaos I'm going to announce is the proposal didn't get passed. So who voted? So can anyone indicate in the chat who voted? This has turned out to be quite a positive thing because. Okay, let's look at the stablecoin vote. So this is the stablecoin vote that didn't get passed, right? So if stablecoin didn't get passed, there won't be any KUSD, and then the pool will be kind of like meaningless, and then the incentive program won't start until all of this is in place, right? But this is a very good sort of I guess case study because we. Obviously, if we go in and vote, then this wouldn't turn out this way. But then at the same time, we had a little bit of like experimental mindset and see how it actually turned out without any, guidance, without any sort of anyone looking at this to see if we actually just let go completely, what's going to happen. This has lower consequence because if this doesn't get passed, if everyone wants this to happen, we can just raise another proposal. And then we can go through the process again. But this is a very good a lesson for all of us here is like voting is quite important because if this vote didn't pass, right, doesn't matter, how good I wrote my proposal, this won't happen. So it's important that, this enough, interest in the proposals, and then folks, can actually vote, and this can actually pass, and then we can actually carry on with all the work. And this is also why, I saw some, discussions on how we actually manage governance. Should we go completely decentralized from day one? Just like let go of everything, everyone just like go wild, or there's also some other extreme approach is completely centralized from day one and then go to decentralized over time. We sort of started somewhere in the middle, right? So we kind of leading the way and trying to help people to understand our thought process, how we think about an issue we try to lay out our thoughts transparently and publicly, and then we are sort of in the middle, and then try to get people to learn how to vote and what is important. And this is a good experiment, right? To know that if we don't vote, if there's no guidance and not enough education, this is what could happen, right? Well, luckily this is not catastrophic. So that's it. And then if you look at the vote specifically, though, like just down to the details, there are only like 10, 12 people voted, and also someone is very exercising their right. They did a 4-time lock, so that even though you may not have the largest amount of vote, but with that sort of locking, you can get more votes, and then you could just outweigh everybody else. So it's a more fair system than one vote, just one vote, right? One token, one vote is much more fair that way. If you have more conviction, like you want it to pass or you don't want it to pass, then you can do something like that, right? So this is a good example. But of course, this is probably not representative. Because maybe most people just assume this is going to pass, right? So maybe you can just indicate in the chat to say, do you want a stable coin? You can just say yes, or some
I can just
emoji there.
I can put up a poll, Betty, in the poll section down here.
Okay. And if you are that person who voted no, and you are generally feel that this is a threat to the protocol, maybe also can post, can share some of the reasons why, and then we can address it, and then we can repropose it tomorrow. So
we've got 97% yes so far.
Oh, okay.
Couple. Oh.
Okay. So the number of things at play. So it's like maybe everyone is thinking the same thing. Like, I want to vote yes, but maybe the next person is going to actually vote, right? So this is what happens. I hope that this is a good lesson for every one of us. And then the second thing is we're also going to make some effort to make it easier for voting. And then the second thing is you can also delegate. Right. This is actually a built-in feature on our governance that you can delegate your vote to certain people in the community that you think they can represent you in certain issues, and then they can go and vote for you, so you don't have to constantly go and vote and stuff like that. So there are a number of things that we can make this work better for everyone. But in general, I hope this is a good, good kind of fun and not detrimental sort of case study for all of us here. And then the next step is, since this didn't get passed, right? So we won't have a stable coin today. But a few things we can do. Once the poll that you guys done, we concluded is another yes, then we can make another proposal. We just need to change the timing, right? There will be a new block time when the KUSD kick-started, and that also means subsequently the listing of KSM and KUSD will be effective sometime after that. So there will be that second vote. And then, so that will probably be what will be happen. Like, at least we recommend that will the way to go. So I'll pause there. Then do you want to maybe take some questions? If someone said why they vote no, or is it just an experiment, or is there any questions before we go on?
Yeah, we have two no's out of 96. So if the no's want to voice themselves, go for it. We'd love to hear your feedback on the proposal.
Yeah, I think the general sentiment is that people or the community actually want the stablecoin to be enabled. This is also a lesson from us as well, is that we need to communicate more often. We need to, as a community, as the KR holder, we also need to participate in the governance. It also demonstrates like the network is truly on the token holder's hand. I think the general sentiment is still like, everyone vote. We think that it's a definitely go ahead to have the stablecoin enabled.
Sounds good. And now it comes to a question, why would you even want to mint KUSD, right? Because once it's listed, if you don't want to maintain the KUSD vault, like maintain the collaterals and stuff, you can just go on and just get the KUSD from the pool. But there are good reasons why people actually want to do that. One reason is KUSD is truly trustless and solvent and liberating way of creating your own dollar, right? Using your own asset and then creating your own dollar. So a solvent stablecoin. And then the second thing is there are some use cases where some business operators or someone who actually want to hedge volatility, right? So, but you don't want to forego the ownership of KSM. You still want to hold on to the KSM, but you want to get some liquidity out of the KSM and pay for goods and services. So that's another good reason. And then the third reason, maybe more suitable to our current situations. Probably we're at a very beginning of everything. There will be a lot of traders, arbitragers, folks who just might want to leverage long the underlying asset, right? So if you just hold KSM, then it's one KSM. But if you some people actually leverage that, so you can use KSM to get your KUSD, and then get a swap more underlying assets, and then you kind of double on KSM. So that's also, some people would use that as a instrument for whatever they do for their own purposes. And then of course, another thing is some folks would want to directly provide liquidity into the KUSD pool to actually earn the stablecoin surplus, as well as the incentive program, right? So that's why you can actually directly mint, because initially there's no KUSD, right? So you can't actually buy. So you actually mint and then you provide liquidity, and you also benefit from the early liquidity mining program incentives. And then I guess down the track, so our goal is to actually make KUSD. Well, I think it's going to be quite widespread and used within the Kusama ecosystem. That's like for sure. We collaborate with other parachain. Some of them will just use it, as a medium of exchange on their parachain. But we're not stopping there, right? Because we have a lot of ways to go beyond just our own ecosystem. We can integrate into various other sort of partners, so that this can be one of the ideal choice for medium of exchange, especially, everything is like very, very much trustless. And then, of course, lastly, is, if you mint KUSD is also a good DeFi primitive. It works very well with, LKSM later on if you use LKSM as collateral. But until that point, I'll just leave it there. So that's that. And then for anything, right? So everything, maybe I should put the percent here. Yeah. So everything we do here is like, if you are unsure what I was talking about, in terms of the mechanism, please go through the documents to understand how the stablecoin is pegged to the dollar, and then how the liquidation actually happens, how the stability gets maintained. I don't think we have enough time today to go through all of them. If it's needed, if you want an educational session, maybe you can shout it out, and then maybe we have another chat or another call to actually go through this and allow you to ask questions as well. But do make sure you understand all of this before you go and mint it yourself. If you aren't sure, you can still wait for someone else to provide liquidity, and then you actually get the stablecoin that way, right? But otherwise, all the stuff are here, how you mint and things like that. And also, there's also a good information here to understand all the jargons that you will see very shortly on the app. When you mint, what are the collateral ratios? What are the fees that you need to pay, like stability fees, and things like that, right? So just make sure you are well educated before you get in. So that's that. We've done that. So any more questions at this point, or should I just go into the liquidity program?
We're at like 37 after, so maybe we just go through the rest, and then save a lot of time for questions.
Okay. So I'll go through this slide. Maybe Rita, you want to go into the details of the numbers after me? Otherwise, I'll be talking all the time.
Yep.
So I think at high level, this is probably reiterating why we do a liquidity program. I think it creates a virtuous cycle so that when there's more liquidity, there will be better trading experience, so lower slippage, and then there are more fees being generated. And then there will be more traders. So it creates a good cycle just within the Karura swap itself. So the LPs benefits, traders will be really happy with the liquidity in there as well. So that's one of the reasons for that particular protocol, but there's also inter-protocol benefit that we want to create. So create this virtual cycle amongst all our protocols, like the stablecoin, the DEX, and also later on the LKSM as well. Because if you have better liquidity, when KUSD needs to be liquidated, you have a better source of liquidity to maintain the stability of the KUSD. And also, if the KUSD is doing well, there will be more surplus to share to the LPs, right? So it becomes like inter-protocol is also a virtuous cycle. So hopefully our liquidity program can help accelerate that process. And then the third thing is, this is also why now we start the KAR and KSM mining program, as want to foster a long-term and sustainable community, and this is why we have a bonus loyalty bonus program as well. So without further ado, Rita, do you want to take over this?
Yes. Let me share my screen.
Oh, do you want to just use my screen or?
Oh yeah, maybe I will. We can just use your screen. Let me stop sharing my screen. Okay. So I think the very first slide is the KSM to KUSD pool, and this is essentially the bread and butter of the Karura network, I would say. The more KSM, KUSD pool, the more better pricing we can offer for one of the perceivably most popular trading pair that will be happening on the Karura, on the whole Kusama DeFi space. Essentially, if you check Uniswap, I mean, one of the most popular trading pair will be USD, USDC, USDT, or DAI versus ETH. So this pool is actually one of the most popular pair that we think we should incentivize and to grow the depths on this pool. This pool also signify how dense the stablecoin the system is, because as you might follow our design, if the liquidation needs to happen on the stablecoin side, the liquidation could hit this pool in order to provide a sovereign system. So the numbers here, we need to make it very clear that liquidity mining on Karura is slightly different than liquidity mining on other Ethereum protocol that you might be familiar with. So we call this a triple dip. So you can actually liquidity mine with multiple sources of income or multiple sources of APY. So the very first core APY would be about 112,000 KAR per month to be dropped into this pool. The duration will run for 6 months. We might the team might adjust this number, depends on how fast or how the market responds with the growth of this pool. The second tip is that as you provide liquidity into this pool, you will be earning 0.3% per trade as the trading activity happens on this pool. So again, this is pretty standard on Uniswap as well. The final tip that you are able to earn is the KUSD, what we call the DEX saving rate. The surplus share. By minting KUSD, there's the stability fee, and then if you provide liquidity to a KUSD related pair, you are able to get part of that stability fee back. So this is mainly what we call the triple dip. And Betty, can we go to the next slide to share a little bit of the numbers that most of the DJ will be looking for. So this is essentially with the current number that we proposed per month, and if we assume the number didn't change, this is essentially the projected APY relatively to the pool size. As we mentioned, the goal is to grow the pool size and have some lucrative return in the community to grow this pool size as well. So if the pool size was started very, very small, let's say $2 million, then the APY was actually 3 figures. And as more liquidity pulling the pool, the APY is still reasonably dropped, but it's still very lucrative to provide liquidity into this pool. So this is essentially an alpha league or an opportunity for you to participate in this program early and to grow the pool size with the whole Karura community. The better the better liquidity is, and the better the trading slippage is for the KUSD, the better for the whole ecosystem, and the better for the confirmation of the valuation of the network. So this is essentially a way to look at how we would like to incentivize and grow the pool size to a reasonably size that we can have a more meaningful economic activity happen on top of the Karura network. The APY here also considering that as KSM, currently we do not have the liquid KSM yet, which will be coming up very, very soon. Also, the API here is to consider otherwise the lost staking reward that you will be the liquidity provider would be sacrificing in order to contribute into this this pool. So this is taking into consideration of the staking reward opportunity cost, the pool size, and we come up with the number in the charts. And so this is essentially the number to share. There's also a royalty program to talk about how you are able to get more by staying within this pool. Betty might have better information on how the royalty program works. So Betty, would you like to share how the royalty program works on how you can start royalty to the protocol and you can earn more on the actual KAR distribution? You're muted.
Tab. Am I unmuted?
Hello? Yeah, you are.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry. Yeah, so I think it goes back to the goal for why we even. I mean, the challenges that we have to run a liquidity mining program, right? Because we want to be sustainable and also long term, which means we want to avoid hotbacks, mining and then dumping. But we want to turn that around in Karura. Let's see if we can do that, right? So this is one of the experiments we put in. And also the second thing on top of that is we also want to share more rewards for longer term LPs compared to just vesting. Because the simplest way we can do is just give you the token and invest it, right? But in this way, the loyalty bonus works in a way that if some of the LPs claim reward earlier, if you do the math, over a certain period of time, even you claim rewards, you still earn more than just without the bonuses, right? So some LPs might want to move their liquidity maybe to a different pool or do something else. It's all very good reasons why you want to do that. But if some of the LPs claim their reward earlier, then their royalty bonus actually goes back into the reward pool. And then share the amounts all the other LPs, right? So over time, if you stick around for longer, then you will enjoy a higher reward. The bare minimum is this 30% for the KSM and KUSD, assuming everybody is sticking around for the whole duration. But there will be people come and go, right? And then longer term holders can actually share a bit more. So yeah, so that's that. Back to you, Rachel, to carry on.
Awesome. So this loyalty program is that if you stick with the program longer, you are able to earn more. And if you withdraw the reward earlier, then you might get less, but still very lucrative. So I mean, the second pair that we will plan to post the governance call to enable the liquidity reward on the KAR KSM pool as well. But before we adjust the KAR to KSM pool, as you can see, currently there's already liquidity in the KAR to KSM pool. And these are the brave early adventures to help to bootstrap this Karura network. So the very first thing we need to address is that for everyone that contributed to the KAR KSM pool, help in bootstrapping this KAR KSM pool, will all get retro airdrop at the pro rata rates. So currently we decided about 65,000 KAR to be distributed per month on this KAR KSM pool. And we will use this rate to pro rata airdrop back to everyone that contributed in the bootstrap process in the past X amount of days to calculate how much you can able to get from this airdrop. So that is something to show as a reward for thanking all the brave early adventurers to make this a possibility. So this is actually, and back to the topic on the KAR KSM pool. The reason that we would like to have a KAR KSM pool is to have liquidity on the native token as well. And this is something that's a way as the community contribute and to build confidence in the whole network. The pool doesn't need to be the KAR KSM pool doesn't need to be as large as the KUSD to KSM pool, because the KUSD and KSM pool is the most traded pair. It also serves as the safety reserve for the let's say for the KUSD being issued using KSM's collateral. So we decided on this pool in a relatively reasonable APY as well. So Betty, could you go to the next slide? So yeah, the APY numbers, if you take consideration of, hey, there's one pair of KSM you need to give up opportunity cost in order to participate, and the other KAR pair that you can able to, you might already obtain. So this is the APY relatively to the pool size. So currently the pool size is sitting at 6 million, as you can see there in the dashboard earlier that we shared today. We hope to grow this pool to a reasonable size as well. But for now, if you get into this pool, the APO imply at this second, we imply APO of 70%. So hopefully we can grow this pool as a source of liquidity for the native token as well. And in this pool, we think it's more to, it's a much better idea to promote long-term commitments, long-term liquidity providers. So there's also a loyalty program. The loyalty program will run, and with a 50% loyalty bonus if you stick and stay with this pool for the duration of this program. So that's essentially the other pool. So currently we have these two pools that are planning to go through the governance and to enable the incentive for both trading pair. And once we release the liquid KSM, which is another game changer, I will assume, then we would provide similar incentive according to the opportunity cost, calculating and what pool size it's reasonable for the protocol, and then we'll come up with another set of proposal of governance call as well. So that's pretty much the sharing of the liquidity mining and the APY numbers for us to get into the next stage of growing the Karura network. I've already unstaked some of the Kusama in order to get into this program. So again, not financial advice, but if you think this number makes sense to you, you can start contributing to the pool and start to join it. When the protocol enables the stablecoin minting, if you think you would like to contribute, this is where your opportunity to grow the Karura network into the DeFi foundation of Kusama. There's
Oh, no, Rita, you finish first before I do a disclaimer.
I think that's pretty much the summary of the liquidity reward incentive program, the proposal that we share with the community. A lot of questions have been asked regarding the circulation supply. I think we need to adjust that, and we need to answer that later on. But Betty, if you have any other topic relating to liquidity mining, we should also share.
Oh, no, I just have a couple of disclaimers so people are aware of all the stuff that we provided here. So firstly is like all the rewards numbers here are inclusive of the loyalty bonus. And then the second thing is this says indicative APY. So it is indicative because there are assumptions of where the KR price is at. And that's sort of how we calculate versus the pool size, right? So, instead of blindly just trust the chart here, we've provided enough information, I think, that you could extrapolate all of the stuff and then put in different parameters, right? So you can have your own sort of understanding of how the APY plays out for you and your situation, and also based on different assumptions as well. And also worth pointing out, the KR and KSM pool, we plan to run it for the whole year, right? So this is different from, it's a slightly longer term program. So I hope that actually additional information before everyone jumps in. Should we answer those questions, retail, first?
Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely. I think we'd like to share the actual circulating supply. So people have been asking that. Actually, Betty, can we go to the Alkala Network's Karura token page? Yeah, let's get to the token page. So I think the definitive source of let's scroll down to look at the token release schedule. I think the definitive source of truth is where this chart. So this chart will stay true. That means there's some by the end of this year, by the end of the it's on July 2020. 2022, the circulating supply is very close to, I would say, 38%, and that's the whole release for the whole year. As you can see, most of the tranche of the liquidity coming from the very first year's rewards. The very first year's reward, including the power chain reward, which is 11% that we already disputed, and the vesting is already applied, 30% upfront and 70% per block. The liquidity mining program that we just shared, it's always the plan to inject another 6% of the total supply into the very first years of liquidity mining program. As you can see, that we opened the very first 2 pairs, and those is the numbers per month. And as more pairs open, there'll be more liquidity mining incentive to inject. So the majority of the circulation coming into the reward part. The early backers and some of the early contributor to the ecosystem will start to invest as well. So this is the definitive reference to check the circulating supply, and you can see the circulating supply is also changing every single day because there's also a reward being released every single day. But ultimately, by the end of this year, that's around 38% of the total circulating supply. Currently, CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko and Subscan, they do not have the correct circulating supply. The reason being, there's actually 2 reasons. One is that, especially on Subscan, some of the tranches, for example, the foundation holds some tranches. The foundation have some tranches, and some of the distribution that we are planning to distribute, for example, the 60%, the 6% of the liquidity mining reward are still considered liquid at this stage, because we need to put it into a vest account, for that to reflect on Subscan. So you can see that 6%, even though they say it's liquid, it is not, because you can only get liquid when there's a governance process to enable that. But I think as we getting more of those tranches into the vesting on chain, the Subscan number should start to follow and reflect what's the true circulating supply is going to be. So once that is getting too close, we will then work with CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko to make sure you're also reflecting the live circulating supply changes every day, if we can do that. So I hope that answered the question of what is actually the circulating supply. It changes every day, and by the end of this year, that's 78%. That's 38% of the total circulating supply.
And Rutao, since it's changing so often, if you were to give one place that's the best place to go to check the live current circulating supply, would that be Subscan?
Yeah, I think it will be Subscan once we adjust and locking all the tranches.
Yeah, once it's all fixed, because
okay.
Because right now they're not reflecting the real circulating supply. Yeah.
Okay, so right now there's not a great place to go quite yet.
Right now, basically you can just follow this chart because it doesn't change that much, right? And then once the APIs and the on-chain data is fixed, then all of those were actually fixed, because they try to be fancy and use the direct Subscan API to read the data, but those data are not corrected, right? So that's why everyone is getting the wrong number somehow. So yeah.
Okay,
so I think right now, referring to this chart, if you want to understand how things is going to change, and then once we fix stuff, we can just tell people, right, it's fixed now, and then you can go to these places to check. Yeah.
And one more thing that I think would be helpful before we go into questions would be, given the the vote outcome today. I think people are wondering, like, maybe exact timing or close to exact timing. Like, when can we expect like the stablecoin to potentially go live, a new vote? If that passes, what are we looking at in terms of? I know it's only days, but
yeah. We've kind of laid out all the details now, and then we know what the community actually feels, right, through the poll that you did. So we're just gonna repeat the process as we did last night. And then once we raise those proposals, there will be exact block there. So I think, so we need to repeat that process again first. And then, those blocks will come out, and then people will know exactly what time each one of those will happen. But the sequence will be turn on the KUSD maintain first, and then probably certain block after that, like we can make it like 2 hours or whatever. Then the listing will happen, and then maybe a couple of hours or whatever. And then, that's all defined by blocks. And then the incentive program will happen, right? So we'll have those exact block number once we raise those proposals. Yeah.
Cool.
Is it worthwhile going through the process of how you can even participate?
Yeah.
So there are two categories, right? So if you are asking about retro airdrop, there's nothing you need to do because it's past event. Like if you are a early LP, you are. If you are not, then don't worry. There's new stuff coming, so there's no point, rushing and doing anything right now. So if you are, past LP, we're gonna look at the on-chain data, which is very easy, and then we'll just like retro drop to those people. So you don't need to do anything. You don't need to stake. You don't need to do anything because if you hold LP tokens at certain point on the blockchain, the data is all there. So we will just like do that. So no actions need to be taken for retro drops. And then if you are participating in liquidity mining, like this new incentive program, once it's turned on, these are the steps, right? So firstly, you need to become an LP. Do understand the LP risks and stuff like that first. But you need to become an LP, which means you supply liquidity into the pools, or you go to the Bootstrap program, which you also claim the LP tokens in the end. And then the second step is with those LP tokens, you actually stake them back into the pool. The reason staking is important is with just the liquid LP tokens, you can transfer them, you can trade them, you can withdraw liquidity very easily. So it doesn't actually achieve our purpose of locking in the liquidity and then helping the liquidity bootstrap to happen faster and increase the adoption, right? So that's why the staking step is important, that only if you stake the LP tokens, then you will enjoy the loyalty bonus. And also if it's KUSD pool, you also have KUSD surplus. But if you only is for earning fees, you don't need staking, right? This is only talking about liquidity mining. So once you've done that, if you do want to withdraw it at some point, you can just go to withdraw. I think there's a button there that you can unstake and withdraw at the same time with one transaction. But of course, you can unstake and then decide what to do with it because once you unstake, the token will come back and then you can transfer them to other accounts or just withdraw liquidity or do whatever with it. So these are the sort of the steps available. Yeah. I think that's the end of it.
Someone asked if they can stake right now.
No. So you have to wait for the liquidity mining program to begin. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got 50 questions. It's been an hour. We've covered all the topics that we wanted to today. So if you have to go, feel free. We'll stick around and get through as many of these questions as we can. Usually there's a lot of repeats. So I'll just start from the top, whatever's been most upvoted. If you have other questions, at this point, it's most likely that it's only going to get answered if you put it into the ask a question box here. So feel free to put it in there. So the top voted question from BuildX says, any plans on integrating other stablecoins like DAI or USDC into Karura and or exporting stablecoins like KUSD and AUSD to an external ecosystem? That's a really good question.
Yeah, I think this is a very good question. The answer is definitely yes. We see the future as interconnected blockchains. To have more asset trading on Karura is extremely beneficial for the Karura blockchain. So there's progress being worked to have bridges to Ethereum, and for USDT, I think there's already plan for them to mine on stake mine. Once it's ready, we can get USDT into Karura to trade as well. To explore outwards, to expand the KUSD, AUSD into the external ecosystem is also another focus that I think we will be very, very closely working on as well. Just as a general indication of like the more connected you are, the better the network will perform. So I think that's the idea.
Cool. I've already staked my LP tokens on your staking portal, even though the APY is set to 0. Is there any chance I earn pre-staking rewards? Go for it.
Yes, there's no pre-staking reward. If you LP'd previously, we'll Rachel airdrop, right? There's no point rushing doing anything now because we're going to choose a block and then Rachel drop all those LPs. And then, right now you see there's 0 APY because no programs got turned on, right? So the timing, I don't know exact timing, but we're going to redo all the stuff today and then make the proposal. So it's likely tomorrow, similar time, like this time, it will actually go live. But yeah, once we're done that, we'll just publish that and then so everyone knows.
Yeah, so there's not, the retro awards go to everyone who is LPing for the KSM-KR pair, not just people who staked their LP tokens early. So don't worry.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so this person wants to know more about the exact detail behind the mechanism of Karura and Akala's stablecoin pegs and how that works.
Yeah, sure. So on a very high level, it's trying to peg to $1 1-to-1, right? And then the way that it does it is it's a little bit like getting some cash out from collateralizing your house, right? Instead of putting your house as deposit, you put KSM or some other supported assets as collateral. Basically, you're using those assets value to kind of generate those liquidity. And then obviously, then you will ask the question, how do you maintain that stability? So there's a number of things at play. So first of all, I've mentioned there's a stability fee. So that's basically a little bit like if you take out a loan from the bank, there's interest rate, right? This is not a loan, but this is maintain KUSD, but we still use the similar mechanism where using the rate to adjust supply and demand. So if you generate KUSD requires you to pay a really high rate, like imagine your interest rate goes up, then will be lesser people hopefully to actually borrow, right? So that is sort of the one of the gauges. And then the second gauges is price fluctuation, because you rely on the underlying asset, in this particular case KSM, to generate those liquidity. What happened if KSM, it's not like we haven't experienced this, right? So KSM could just go up and down, fluctuate dramatically within a day, within a few hours. That has happened in the past. So that's why we took that into account and Ganglet come up with all those collateral ratios. So if that actually happens, right, it will actually make your position very unsafe. So because, for example, you originally have $200 worth of KSM in the vault to mint, say, $50 of KUSD, all of a sudden, KSM, collapsed, unfortunately, God forbid, and then all of a sudden, your $50 KUSD may not be backed by enough KSM in there in terms of value, right? And how do you deal with that? So this is part of the stablecoin mechanism. Is it will automatically to evaluate the unsafe position every block. You couldn't do this on Ethereum, just a disclaimer, because on Ethereum you rely on a server that run by somebody that monitors the system. Oh, is the longer still safe? So for us, because on our chain, we have off-chain worker. So every block, we are able to, on the blockchain, monitor whether the position is safe or not. If it's unsafe, it will immediately send a transaction. So no one has to do that outside of the system. It will just send a transaction, and then it will go into a liquidation process. And then how do we liquidate? What does liquidation mean? Liquidation just means you can convert some of those KSM that you locked as collateral into KUSD and then pay it back, right? So that you still have some KSM left, and then you can take it back, so you don't lose everything. And then that liquidation, if you go deeper, we use a hybrid mechanism. So it will actually go to liquidate, like sell off the KSM on the Karura swap first. If the liquidity is good, slippage is good, then we will do the liquidation there, because it's fastest way that we can make sure that people don't lose too much or can maintain their collateral. If that doesn't work, if it's a huge amount that we need to liquidate, we also have a secondary mechanism, which is auction. Right? So auction is great in a way that you can get the best price, basically, but it's slower, right? That's why the Black Thursday, the maker situation, it didn't quite work out with auction only, because it's, the Oracle didn't work out, and then the auction didn't work out, and it's slow, so it didn't quite respond to the sharp price fluctuation really well. So that's why, we have, new ways to actually make sure, one is this is all automatic, the liquidation process is automatic, so it's fast, and also added the Karura swap to help the process. So we can liquidate as fast as we can to maintain the solvency of the entire platform. So those are the two main mechanisms. But of course, on top of that, Oracle is like key, very, very key to this entire process, because all the sort of the price that I talk about is all rely on oracles. So we also have resources on what our current Oracle situation is, and also where we are going also. So do have a read of that. One of the things that we improved is we make Oracle transaction a system transaction. So we don't have the problem today. Imagine one day, Karura is so busy, like Ethereum, right? And then what happens if the block is congested? What happens to my Oracle price feed? So this is also what happened on the Black Thursday, is the price feed didn't get updated on time, and it's not the right price. So then people get liquidated, rightly or wrongly, right? So we make the Oracle price feed a system transaction, so that it get included in every block. So make sure the price is always up to date. So still can't say the system is perfect, because we always have to react to what happened in the market, what happened to people trying to attack the system, and also other risk factors. But we are continuing monitoring and trying to make sure it works. Yeah, someone asked Link. So we're working with Chainlink as well. So the infrastructure we build is open to any Oracle provider. So Chainlink can come on and also make Chainlink price feed a system transaction, and then be able to supply that to the applications as well. So it's all open to all. So yeah.
Great. This is a good question. Someone asked about the loyalty bonus. Sorry. Do you have to be in the pool before a certain block, or can anyone join at any time and still be eligible for that loyalty bonus? How does that work?
Yeah, anytime. Because the loyalty program is calculated ongoingly every peer, every few blocks. So basically, you join anytime, and it will start counting. Right? So.
Okay. Circulating supply, I already answered that. Hold on, I think I'm gonna have a little bit of noise. Ruta, can you go through the question?
Yes. Circulating supply. I think we already shared the circulating supply. The definitive way to look at the circulating supply is to go to the Karura Networks token page. That indicates what the circulating supply is. Currently, the Subscan, CoinMarketCap, and CoinGecko, they do not have the correct circulating supply, as some of the challenges we're still working on to make sure they are get into a vested status. So I'm gonna actually try to find the link. Yeah, here. Just post that in the share, and that's where you can find the definitive token release schedule charts on the Karura token.
So the next question is cool. So I have been asking if there will be any other incentive for KR, KSM, LP, as impermanent loss is killing me. Should I just get out or else, right? So this is very interesting because for the numbers that we showed, right now there's like 12 million trading volume in 7 days. That actually reflects how much money, if you are just LPing, you are earning. So times that by 0.3%, you're probably earning $35,000 in the last 7 days. And that's probably $5,000 a day. If you times that by 365 a year, and then divided that by, I think there's 6 mil, right? Still 6 mil as TVL. That gives you a handsome 30% of APY. So obviously, so that is like without incentive. That is the APY just LPing. That's why we always say why liquidity is so important. If you have a really good liquidity and have a really good trading volume, you no longer rely purely just on incentive, because you can't just like print and then give people incentive and keep the pool forever incentivized, right? The pool will get to a certain stage. It can let go of the incentive and it can still self-sustaining. And this is where the self-sustaining coming from is all the trading volumes. If you look at Uniswap, I think they're making 100 million. Is it a monthly or something for all the LPs? This is purely based on fees. There's no incentive program. So we have to be very clear what is the real driving force for this. The incentive program is just helping all of us to get to that self-sustaining stage really fast, right? So we don't have to suffer the in-between times. So that is that. So, and also that 30% APY as trading fees, obviously it's a general picture. There's no two LPs will come out exactly the same. Like the time that you go in and LP, and then the exchange rate that you go in and out is different from different LPs, right? So so you should go into a little bit more learning, how the losses actually realize. If you don't cash out, there's no losses, right? So there's many different things that play to be a really good LPs. So yeah, do get educated and see what works for you, right? So yeah, LPs are only one way. So hopefully that helps.
Cool, I'm back now. Will we be able to use KAR for collateral is next?
I don't think in the near future. Once the Karura network has been solidified and the volume or all the fundamentals justify that Karura token itself could be added as collateral, then maybe it will be anyone that can post a governance call to add that token as collateral. But for now, we need to make sure the network performs, the network deliver what it promises, the network has volume, the network has users before we can achieve that. So again, this is the community part of work to make this a reality.
Lots of circulating supply questions. So somebody's asking for LPs who did the Bootstrap, then withdrew for the KR KSM pair, would they get rewards for the time that they were LPing for the retroactive reward?
I think so.
It's just based on the number of blocks, I guess?
Yeah, I think it's just like the ratio job we will have a script to run through and look at how much how many liquidity you've been providing, how long you've been providing that, and then just as if you were doing the liquidity mining now, then calculate the number and then ratio job.
Okay. When will the NFT reward be distributed?
Maybe the next runtime upgrade, I assume.
We had the NFT module enabled. Yeah, but we haven't distributed it. Maybe another proposal, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, this is a good question. Can you explain the roadmap for interoperability with other blockchains? They said besides ETH and BTC, but maybe you can start with BTC and ETH and then going on from there to other chains, I guess.
Yeah, I think we're already working on a chain to connect to a bridge to connect to Ethereum. So there'll be interconnected value between Ethereum and Karura, and ultimately later on Alkali as well. For Bitcoin, there's already a number of other projects working on that. We have been also working with the BTC team to connect Bitcoin as well. So those has been all the progress being made so far. On Ethereum, there's also, once you have the Ethereum bridge, there's also other type of Bitcoin that could be transport and can be transferred into the Karura network as well, such as WBTC, SBTC. There's many other BTC are on Ethereum on variety. In talking to connect to other blockchains, I think there's like two types of blockchain we should definitely connect to. I mean, the very first blockchain that we need to connect to is all the other projects. I've been working with pretty much all of them to make sure that value can be circulating within Kusama itself. And this is actually the truly trustless bridge between different projects. And for other networks, for example, such as other promising network, Solana, Neo, whatever, the incentive, I think the goal of the network is always to connect to as many network as possible. That's always the goal. We believe in the future for all interconnected blockchains. As long as there's capacity for us to work on those, as long as there's the right opportunity for us to work on those, I think we'll keep expanding and connect to multiple blockchains.
Yeah, and also to mention Compound as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's also Compound Gateway that we already have a relationship working with them to have a Starport. That is considered another inter-blockchain communication.
Yeah, this is something that I recently been trying to say more because it wasn't very well promoted that Compound is building their independent chain using Substrate. So Substrate is the framework that we use to build Karura and Akala, and every parachain is using it in the Kusama and Polkadot ecosystems. It's the framework that Gavin Wood and his team created for building these blockchains. And the Compound team, I'm sure they did this whole analysis of all the options they had, and they chose Substrate as well. With Substrate, you don't have to actually plug into Kusama or Polkadot. You can run it as an independent chain. So that's what they'll do. But of course, that'll make it easier for us to work with them. So we'll be bringing DOT and Liquid DOT, and we'll see what happens with the Karura roadmap as well. But yeah, we're excited to get that bridge to Compound chain as well. Good question, Filippo. Someone's asking, yeah, would any future LP pools include KSM/ETH or KSM/BTC? I think anything's possible, right?
Well, I think definitely once the bridge is up, I think there's definitely a demand for that to trade in a trustless way.
Yeah, and also all the meme coins on StateMine, and also all the non-meme coins from other parachains, all tradable, whatever you want.
This person said they saw my tweet about Polkadot.js needing a UI improvement. Will Karura be getting involved in trying to improve its UI? I think my answer is there's a couple answers here. So one thing, there's a wiki that is kind of a community-led wiki that I'm contributing to, and a couple of our teammates are contributing to. The point of this wiki is kind of to help people with the Karura apps. And one of the things we did was built a flow for people who are brand new to Polkadot.js. So we're explaining what Polkadot.js is, how it's different and similar to MetaMask, and then bringing people all the way through the flow without ever having to go to the Polkadot.js website. So that's one way of kind of improving the onboarding process. Since I'm expecting a lot of people coming because of the Karura launch, we should hopefully see a lot of new people coming to the ecosystem. So that's one answer. Number two, I know just at ETHCC a couple weeks ago, there was a team I talked to there that's actually building a new new version of Polkadot.js. So there's them. I've heard rumors of a couple others. So I think there's several teams out there trying to solve this problem of the Polkadot.js usability challenges for end users. I think it's great for developers, but there's definitely some things we can do to improve, especially since everyone's so used to things like MetaMask. But the difference here too that we all have to understand, Polkadot.js is a great tool and it's extremely complex because MetaMask is a browser extension for one blockchain. On Kusama, these tools have to be built to be able to scale up to 100 or more different parachains or blockchains that can be used and interacted with using this extension. So it's a very difficult problem to solve. But we're so early in the kind of the history of Kusama and Polkadot that this will surely get figured out soon.
We should answer that loyalty program question. What if people? Yeah.
Go ahead.
What if people join during the middle of the 1 year period of the loyalty program? Would they still be rewarded? So the answer is yes. So you can join anytime, right? The timing is only the timing difference is only may affect how much you may earn, like because if you join at a different time, then the liquidity will be different at that point in time, and then the APY might be different. So that's the only thing. If you assume the liquidity is the same from beginning to the end, there's literally no difference. You join any time, right? As long as you stick around for long enough, then you'll continue to actually earn the loyalty bonuses. So yeah.
So you're saying the loyalty bonus will diminish over time. The later you get in, the less of the loyalty bonus you'll get. Like you couldn't just join on the last day and expect the full loyalty bonus.
Well, you get your own percentage, right? So, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, we've got a lot of repeats in here now. I'll choose just maybe one or two more. Okay, I'm running out of non-repeat questions. One more, Betty, that someone asked somewhere, I think in the chat earlier. Could you talk a little bit about the plans within the Karura app's like governance tab? I know some people were saying like it's hard to vote. I know our team is working on a voting guide, I think as we speak, just to help people through the process. But is there plans to bring some of this into the governance tab within Karura apps?
Yeah, for governance, there are a number of thoughts, right? So we are at an undecided stage. So obviously the tools available currently, there's Polkadot web app that's usually on the forum that we post. You can just vote there directly, right? Because that is provided by Polkadot. We can't manipulate it. It's a good third-party application that can participate in the Polkadot app. And then we also have a tab on our app which shows very rudimentary information on the governance. So that's also an option. Like if we want to improve the UX, and then so can display more discussion information, and then people can also vote from there. That's another option, but that shouldn't be the only option. There's also a Polk Assembly, and also one other service provider that does this voting for the substrate chains. So there are a couple out there that we could also commission and use. And we haven't decided which one that we actually dedicate to go to. There's a number of things that we are thinking. One is like those services are not free. We have to like pay for quite amount of money to do that. Then you start thinking, should we acquire that service and pay the fees, or should we just implement it somewhere? And then maybe the community member also start a website to make it a better tool. So because that's not like the core sort of business that we're doing, so we don't have an answer right now. So we're just trying things out. So you can see the stuff that we try. We use the Discord forum, which is free, but it has a good place to discuss, post information, and then also link to the Polkadot web app for voting, because the Polkadot web app provides very comprehensive of submitting a proposal and also everything. So we also don't want to reprogram everything also. So those are the number of things that play. But so far, we've been using those two things. And we've also experimenting improving the UX on our own app. But that's also on the question mark. Should we actually do that, or should we just pay for folks like PokeAssembly to do their thing? So I think those can be open. I don't have like a 100% answer here. So yeah.
Great. There's one other question. So can you give me some info on when or if there will be an equivalent to Uniswap analytics for Karura, like a dashboard? Is there maybe another way to check volume and liquidity stats? Thanks. I really like the platform so far.
Yeah. So two things happening at the same time. Courtesy to retail. He created a dashboard, and also thinking about sharing that with the community. And then at the same time, there's also a simple dashboard being built behind the scene. It's just we haven't been able to launch it yet. And then the third thing is we've exposed all the SDKs and APIs. There's somewhere on our wiki, there's information how you can query all the information on chain. There's also subquery, which is like the graph. It's like the graph, but for substrate chains that people can also use to query data and etc. So if you are very keen on developing something, this is also an opportunity to build some stat tools yourself as well while waiting for us, right? Because we have protocol stuff to focus on, but yeah, we're on the way to making some stats. But also, I think there's a bigger creative community out there that folks can just build those things. Yeah.
Cool. There's a lot more questions, but most of these are repeats. So what we'll do is go through these and try to get some answers out to people if there are some questions left that weren't repeated. But it's been an hour and a half. There's still quite a few people on the call. So let's wrap it up. This will be This has been recorded this whole time, and this is going to be posted onto YouTube pretty soon. So look out for that if you want to rewatch it or share it with anyone. We'll just continue communicating every step of the way. You can watch, of course, the Karura account. Betty's been doing a lot of these kind of summary posts recently around the governance and voting and all that stuff. So keep an eye on all the Twitter accounts. Keep an eye on the Discord. We'll be kind of with you guys every step of the way. But we really appreciate the time. It's not easy to carve out an hour and a half of your day, and clearly you guys are very passionate and excited about this, as we are. And yeah, thank you. We'll talk to you all soon. Have a good day or a good night.
I'll go vote tonight. We'll post it out.
Please vote.